Snap Construction will be putting up proceeds to assist the station in marketing on social media. Snap Construction encourages you to follow, engage, share, and interact on the AM 950 social media platforms. Together, we can all work to ensure AM 950 continues to thrive and grow in our communities. We stand by our work with a lifetime craftsmanship guarantee. For a free estimate or more information on our financing, call 612-333-SNAP or check us out online.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 83, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 58, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high near 67. Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. They feature high-quality food and unique eating experiences for your next meal. Some of those restaurants and food purveyors include 30 Bales and Latunji's Palette. Find a full list of all of our restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com. Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hey, Minnesota GOP, how'd that taste? It is the Matt McNeil Show for your victorious Victory Lap Tuesday, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Indeed, a spectacular session just wrapping up yesterday. A lot to get to there. We got Patrick Cool again from the Minnesota Reformer. He's going to talk about this. There'll probably be a little bit of overlap there, but, listen to that. That's coming up with Brett here, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Patrick, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. I'm in as good a mood as you are that, it's taken a couple days to really look back at this session and go, wow, look what we did.
Oh, because there, and I'm going to get to this here, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on this hour, especially, and we'll go through the transportation and the Health and Human Services bill. Those are the last two that got passed, and to kind of go through that and kind of break down what those do and what they don't do. Got to talk about that a little bit, but overall, it was a very good session. I mean, a very good session, and I as a matter of fact, I'm hard pressed to find another. I can't think of another session that happened as well as this one did. I will tell you that right now that there are a lot of Republicans who are going crazy, and I'm not just talking the usual suspects. The guys who most of the time you see them are beet face red with veins popping out, spittle flying across their lips, going. There are a lot of what I would call generally fairly calm and relaxed Republicans most of the time whose social media posts have all basically boiled down to this. The Democrats are all poopy heads, poopy heads. You're ugly too. They're ugly poopy heads. Ugly poopy heads. That's all you are. Ugly poopy heads. Nothing. I think I came across this tweet today, and I'm just like, I just could not stop laughing, Patrick. A tweet today, this is, I think, epitomizes where most Republicans are at today. Yep, Target headquartered in Minnesota. I don't know why head and quartered were separated, but Target headquartered in Minnesota hired a devil worshiper to work on their pedophilia line. Wow. Now, what got me chuckling about this, Patrick, do you remember John Lovitz when he was on Saturday Night Live? Did you ever see any of his bits?
I think I might have been a little young for that.
Well, go back and watch when he played the devil. And he was fantastic as the devil. He was really, really good as the devil. And he did an episode where he got sued. He had to go to the people's court, and it was very funny. When I think about this, I said, okay, wait a second. So how did you know he was a devil worshiper? Is it something like that he showed up in like the John Lovitz devil costume? Hello there. I'm the devil. I'm a devil worshiper. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm here to interview for the mid-level marketing job. Is that really kind of, I don't know. I know. Target, by the way, FYI, that would be Andre K 2022. One of these idiots with 60 followers and a blue check mark. Genius. And he's I'll let your lawyers get in touch. He's gonna have a good time with you. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. what I'm going to do, and this doesn't even come close. What I'm about to do here is I am going to run the list of what I was able to put together in 2 hours today of all the things that we got done. And Patrick kind of alluded to this when we started the show, is that the crazy part about this is in the past, maybe one or two of these much more stripped down issues would have gotten passed. We would have had to give up, 4 massive tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires, and we'd get a pittance in return. And the reality is, I've never seen a session end like this. I've never seen anything like this. This is astronomical. And it's hard to comprehend. It's like, okay, we did this with a 1-vote majority in the Senate. And Republicans who insisted, I've never voted with it, even if it helps my district. I mean, those guys. Just, it's amazing. I'm going to run this. It's going to take me a while. Grab some popcorn, settle back, enjoy. Starting off, Minnesotans can make autonomous decisions about their reproductive health concerning contraception, abortion, and pregnancy. Minnesota is a sanctuary state for women seeking abortion. Subpoenas and extraditions in regards to abortion will not be enforced in Minnesota. Minnesota is a sanctuary state for transgender individuals seeking gender-affirming care. Minnesota will not help enforce any out-of-state prosecutions. The practice of conversion therapy for children and vulnerable adults is now forbidden. Paid family medical leave is now law, or is going to be in law. Some of these things have yet to be signed by the governor, but it sounds like most of this stuff is going to be. We will adjust our list as we get there. But paid family medical leave looks like that's going to be law in Minnesota. A major expansion of high-speed broadband across the state to bring us close to the border-to-border coverage as promised. All electricity in Minnesota must be carbon-free by 2040. Rebate checks for Minnesotans making $78K or less a year and married couples making $150K or less a year, and rebates for up to 3 kids per household. A child tax credit focused on lower income workers of up to $1,750 per child under 18. That's amazing. A massive expansion of Social Security tax exemption geared towards couples making less than $100K a year and individuals making less than $78K a year, which pretty much gets you most of the people in the middle class. A lot of people there. Universal free school breakfast and lunch to all kids. Minnesota has a red flag law now, which means authorities can seize firearms from someone deemed to be high risk of injuring themselves or others. Private party transfers of certain firearms now require universal background checks. Free tuition to state universities, public colleges, and tribal colleges for families making $80K or less. Every school district in the state got a massive increase, especially in essential services like special education. And so every school district saw a massive increase in their budgets. Rental assistance was expanded. New paths for struggling farmers to get their product to hunger relief organizations across the state. We have undocumented workers can now get a driver's license. $300 million to low-income families to get access to early childhood education. More mental health services for every level of education in Minnesota. Major investments into the state colleges. It's illegal in Minnesota for people to knowingly spread false information with the intention of stopping someone from voting. That is now illegal in the state of Minnesota. Money to stop food insecurity on college campuses has been passed. $300 million in new funding to help public safety officials treat mental health calls. PFASs are banned in Minnesota effectively in 2025. Marijuana will be legal in the state of Minnesota. It will expand Minnesota Care eventually here, the state's medical care program, to more people with the goal to offer it to all Minnesotans within a few years. Some marijuana convictions, I should say all Minnesotans under a certain income level within a few years. Some marijuana convictions in Minnesota will be expunged when legal marijuana becomes law. a massive investment in green energy, primarily solar panels across the state, rebates for buying an electric car, $7.8 billion for funding roads, transit, airports over the next 2 years. The gas tax is now tied to inflation, preventing further budget shortfalls within transportation. Home weatherization funding for low-income individuals. The non-compete orders have been made illegal in the state of Minnesota. Voting rights restored for 55,000 Minnesotans with felony convictions, with new rules to reinstate those rights for all felons upon their release from incarceration. Far more restrictions on no-knock warrants, harsher penalties for carjackers. A massive increase in spending to upgrade the facilities at state parks in Minnesota, benefiting every part of the state. A major investment in expanding mental health services for farmers. 16-year-olds will be automatically registered to vote in Minnesota. $43 million to help battle violent crime in Minnesota. More authority of the AG to scrutinize medical mergers in the state to make sure the mergers benefit Minnesota. Removal of archaic rule that prohibited the studying of expansion of mass transit to the South Twin Cities metro area. That was a weird one. Can I just say that? That was just, they were terrified. They knew. And this goes back in the, if you've been in this town for a while, and I was back here in the 80s, there used to be massive backups, and there still are, on all the roads that come across the Minnesota River in the South Metro. But they knew that there would be eventually a call for mass transit to get down there. What now they basically, they passed a law, they basically got a law passed where they said, you can't even discuss it. Just bizarre. Funding to get commuter rail from the Twin Cities to Duluth. Increased funding for the Attorney General's office to allow him to help more counties in prosecutorial duties. Money to replace lead pipe water lines across the state. Protections for farmers when grain buyers become financially insolvent. We had that actually happen a few times where the co-ops and the grain mills basically went down, and so the farmers lost everything too. Now we have help for the farmers there. Thank you, DFL. Crackdown on price gouging during emergencies, helping with emergency funding for food shelves in the state, cracking down on catalytic converter thefts in Minnesota, money to encourage the growth of new farmers in Minnesota, especially immigrant and BIPOC farmers, $300 million to the state nursing homes to help address the shortages within the industry. The state will aggressively combat the deer disease, chronic wasting disease, in an effort to limit the impact and consequences. New money for management of our natural lands, money to deal with crimes and drug issues on the metro transit lines, wage increases and employment protections for Uber and Lyft drivers in Minnesota. All full-time workers can accrue paid sick leave and safe and leave time. So basically, you can save that up. Just work 30 hours. I think you get an hour for every 30 you work. Money is set aside to study the long-term effects of COVID in Minnesota. It's now illegal to discriminate against a person due to their hair. Replenishment of the AG's emergency account. State fish hatcheries will be rebuilt and or improved. Improved shore fishing across the state. The shore fishing facilities are going to be improved across the state. The governor's commission appointments can no longer be held hostage as a long-term negotiation tool. I'll come back to that here in a little bit. $35 million to improve boat ramps and facilities at lakes statewide. A tax credit for electric bikes. Expansion of bike trails across the state. $90 million for Minnesota veteran care. $380 million for 47 wastewater projects across the state of Minnesota. By the way, most of the Republicans in the districts that had those voted against them. Make them pay for that, DFL. People on bicycles can now do rolling stops at interchanges as long as they safely yield. We've addressed the potential minnow shortage crisis. Juneteenth is now officially a holiday in Minnesota. And finally, we named a highway after Prince, although let's be honest, we should probably give him a county. Now, that being said, holy crap! F yeah, man! That is an impressive, and that is not even covering it all. There's a ton of stuff I didn't even announce in that because I didn't have to. It took me 2 hours just to get this list done. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around this. I can't even wrap my head around this because this was such a monumental and successful term. And when this started, the first thing I said, and I remember this back when they started the session, I said, you got a 1-seat majority in the Senate. That's not a lot of wiggle room. And yet, here we are. Here we are. And you got to give the Democrats a lot of credit. I mean, we'll talk about the nursing bill that there seems to be some problems there. I don't know why. I personally think you should have jammed it down the Mayo's throat and just told them deal with it. And because right now and I'll tell you what, I'll get to that. I'll get to that a little bit later on. The transportation bill, which I'll run down here next. It gets a ton of stuff done. I have been following politics for many years. I have watched as Republicans with a 1-seat majority in one of the houses or a minimal majority is able to almost dictate what gets passed, and that concessions have to be made across the board to bills, and certain bills were never going to get their day in a conference room in front of the public and all these things. And all these things, they got done. I was thinking when I got to the point about the green energy and green cars and rebates on electric cars and stuff like that. I remember last year, oh God, who was the Ingebretson? Was it Ingebretson, the senator, the Bill Ingebretson, the guy, who was fishing Alaska all the time? He would run away and fish Alaska when they were trying to get bills passed. And Ingebretson was talking about how he would never, as long as the Republicans controlled something, they weren't going to allow any kind of green technology, green energy to pass in the state. Well, that got changed. It's amazing to see. And by the way, the reason why the Republicans, and I'll get to the Republicans again in the 4:00 hour, but the reason why the Republicans are furious today is we look around this country right now, and you see Republicans gleefully forcing 10-year-old rape victims to carry their baby to term. You're seeing them gleefully talk about arresting the parents of a transgender child. You see them gleefully talking about taking away people's rights, attacking businesses that don't push their agenda, making it more difficult for independent journalism to be out there. You see this across the board, and the reality is that Minnesota, and granted, Michigan changed, and some of these other states as well. Have you ever seen a state have a success like Minnesota just had in their first session with the Democrats in charge? And I guarantee you, and I'll talk about this, like I said, coming in the next hour, I guarantee you how the Republicans are going to have to address this. That's going to be them for the next year and a half, screaming at the top of their lungs, unless it's something that is popular, to which they'll say, hey, we're not trying to get rid of paid family leave or anything. We just need to cut the fat. Cut. So what do you want to cut? Well, we're going to kill the whole program. Well, that's killing it. Cut. That's going to be them. It's going to be one of the two. Either your life's a hellscape, or hey, you like that bill? Well, we weren't, even though we voted against it in unison, we're not against that. We just need to trim the fat. We'll get to that. That's going to be their entire campaign next year, with probably Trump on the top of the ticket and Amy Klobuchar up for re-election. Good luck. No, you go, you spunky little candidates. You go. Go. Great. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Let's take a break. Come on back. Let's break down the bills that did get passed last night, and we'll go through those and talk more about a few other things as well. It is the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
All right. I had a premonition that we fell into a rhythm where the music don't stop for life.
Tune in this Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on AM 950 for the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. We'll be discussing watering your garden, what's the best way to go about doing it, as well as the art of pickling. Our guest is co-founder of Phylum Bioproducts, John Libbs, will be with us discussing organic bug control, and we'll answer your garden questions. That's all this Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on AM 950. Tell a friend and let's grow together.
The world has changed, our economy has changed, and now more than ever, it's important that your retirement savings is set up to generate income, real money in your bank account month after month while still controlling your principal. And that's what we do. We're Ferguson Financial. We set up people for retirement income. Call us today, 888-429-5569, and check out our retirement income program, Sunday mornings at 9.
New at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Kuma wood stoves and fireplace inserts. American-made, sturdy and efficient wood heaters. All models qualify for 30% tax credit you can earn for installing efficient and renewable wood heat. Come see the new wood-burning Kuma stoves and fireplace inserts.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has been selling wood-burning products since 1977. Kuma wood burners are hard-working home heaters made from heavy laser-cut steel. Kuma stoves and fireplace inserts have cast iron doors and large self-cleaning glass windows. You can see the firelight and feel the heat from their efficient fire. One of Woodland's many choices to make fire work for you and your home.
We're with the chimney and installation experts. They not only install, but will guide you if you want to install yourself. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood, gas, and electric units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services.
AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Let's get to the infrastructure bill. That got passed last night and headed to the governor's desk. Now, once again, there's a lot of bills that have not been signed, and there are some questions on whether or not, like on the Uber Lyft driver, will Governor Walz sign that? My guess is, and I just knowing Walz, he's probably trying to find one or two that he can veto and just send back just to kind of say, see, I didn't go along with the Democrats. I hope he doesn't. This is a once in 100 years type of reform that's happening in the state thanks to the DFL. So I hope he does keep them all, but I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of them does get voted down. We'll have to vetoed down. We'll have to find out. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the infrastructure bill. The legislative session came to an end Monday. The infrastructure bill was out there. The bills passed with bipartisan support, which was necessary as bonding bills require a supermajority in both the House and the Senate. They would be funded by $1.5 billion borrowing and $1.12 billion in the cash from the state's surplus. Some of the key elements of the infrastructure deal as it happened: $300 million for nursing homes across the state, which includes $225,000 lump sum payment to each individual home, plus another payment based on the number of active beds they have. $51 million will also increase the daily rate facilities receive per resident by $12.35 through December 31st, 2024. Here's my biggest concern is that I have a bad feeling there's a lot of operators of these nursing homes that are about to take a $225,000 check and put it in their pocket. And the point of this money is not to basically make a bunch of people that are running these nursing homes wealthier. It's supposed to get better senior care in the state. So I'm hoping there's a lot of oversight on that one. $326.3 million to the Minnesota Department of Transportation for local road and bridge improvements. $233.1 million for the Minnesota DNR, which is now under $50 million, is for flood hazard mitigation. So of that $233.1 million, $50 million of that is going to go to flood hazard mitigation. $381 million for 47 water and wastewater projects across Minnesota. That's going to be fascinating. I'm going to have to break that down a little bit, maybe this weekend, look at that and see which Republicans voted against it, if any did. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the final vote total was here. But, if the Republicans voted against it and these projects were in their district, come on, this is not tough, DFL. Get those billboards out there next week saying, hey, the DFL wanted to give you a wastewater treatment plant. Your local Republican representative said, "Now." Well, we passed it anyway. You're welcome. Sign the DFL. Around $48 million for public safety centers, including funding for new police facilities in Edina, Hibbing. Wait a minute, Edina? We had to fund anything in Edina? The money trees are just not blossoming as nicely as usual. Sorry, Edina guy. Edina, Hibbing, and Marshall, and funding for new fire department facilities in Lake Johanna and Dilworth, which I'm pretty sure they'll probably be grateful for. $108.6 million to the Metric Council, four of which $72 million is for bus and rapid transit projects, while the other projects, including trail and railroad crossing improvements, $90 million for the Department of Veterans Affairs, of which just under $78 million is earmarked for the Hastings Veterans Home Campus. So good news there. That actually does need to get upgraded down there. $66.9 million from the cash bill for transportation projects, including reconstruction of Highway 8 in Chisago 235E, the construction of a primary airport runway in Carlstad, funding for a freight rail car storage facility in Lakeville, and almost $13 million for a street reconstruction and improvements in Madelia. $21.5 million on the renovation of the Minnesota Sex Offender Program facility in St. Peter. $160 million for the Department of Employment and Economic Development, which projects including $13 million for improvements to Spirit Mountain Ski Center, $1.8 million for public health facility in Bloomington, $7.4 million to renovate and add a second sheet of indoor ice at the Hermantown Ice Arena, $5 million for renovations to the Duluth Entertainment and Convention Center, and $12 million to build a new nature center building at Wood Lake Nature Reserve in Richfield. $132 million for the University of Minnesota, of which $92.6 million is earmarked for undergraduate chemistry teaching laboratory at Fraser Hall, and $179 million for the Minnesota State facilities, with 20 to 23 million amounts proposed for projects at each of the MSU Moorhead, Inver Hills Community College, Minneapolis Community and Technical College, and the Pine Hills Community and Technical College. So a lot done there. And that's not a complete list. That's a lot of it. There's a lot more in there, but you got kind of an idea there of what exactly has been approved. And it's a lot. It's a lot. Now I want to make sure we go out here, and because I talked about this. They're going to do street improvements in Madelia. All right. Republican voters desperately will try their hardest to go on out there and find some way they can credit the Republican for this getting done. I don't have any problem if the Republican voted along with the bill, giving them some credit. But DFL, you've got to start playing for keeps now. And what I mean by that is you need to go on out there and say, hey, in the case that the local Republicans voted along with them, you go on out there and say, hey, we want to thank these two Republicans, but we also want to remind everyone the DFL got this done. This was a teamwork, bipartisan effort to get this done. Now, trust me, nothing will scare Republicans more than using the word bipartisan in one of their districts, especially one of their hard right districts, because that's not a sell point. But the reality is you got to go out there and start freaking bragging. When someone takes paid, put a billboard in any town. If you're taking, when the paid family sick leave kicks in, if you take paid family sick leave, thank a DFLer, because the DFLer's got that done for you. And yeah, you're right. Some Republicans, they're going to get upset with us because they're going to feel like we're rubbing it in their face. You need to rub it in their face. These people are freaking brainwashed, for God's sakes. Right now, they're desperately trying to find some way to not give the DFL credit for all the things they're about to take advantage of. So yes, you have to rub their face in it and make them realize this narrative that gets pushed by these local right-wing radio stations and local right-wing newspapers and by the talk that's not true. That's just not true. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, we'll do a contest. DFL, get out there and put the billboards out there. We'll do a contest of which billboard gets violated most of all, because they're going to be furious you're pointing out the fact that the DFL is helping all Minnesotans. And there's a lot in this that helps all Minnesotans. Just go up to Highway 8 in Chisago. Just go up to Highway 8 in Chisago, for God's sake. That's a far-right area running on out there towards Lindstrom and stuff. Put a billboard out there. Say, the DFL would like to hope that when this gets finished, you guys are feeling good about yourself because we did this for you. You're welcome. I mean, every single district, every single town, everything. Get out there with freaking billboards. And basically, you've got to start doing the counter. And yeah, that might mean, and I don't want to put Ken Martin on the spot because that'll be a lot of interviews, but the DFL officials need to get on out to these Republican areas. And when they come on out there, it's like, you raised our taxes. And then the first thing out of your mouth is, yeah, and we delivered a lot of freaking services to you. You see that water treatment plant that's getting built in town? Are you saying you want us to shut that down? No. All right. How about the fish hatchery that we just patched here, or the state park that we're renovating the main office space and all the bathrooms that are there? That's local jobs right here for you. Should we stop that? Because we're getting jobs. This money's getting back into your community. You want to sit there and bellyache about whether or not, someone that gas tax was a little higher. Yeah, but we're finally fixing the roads and bridges. You're welcome. And yeah, you need to kind of be that aggressive, because if we're going to shake rural Minnesota away from this insanity that drives them to push the narrative of, we're going to secede from the rest of the state. Well, you got to get the gloves off and start fighting back. Because I guarantee you right now, Republicans are disseminating from St. Paul, heading back to their districts and getting ready to take credit for everything. When someone comes up to them and says, hey, you know what? I'm glad you did this. I'm glad I was able to get that done for you, even though they probably voted against it. It is time to win this and put Republicans in such a hole that it becomes next to impossible for them to win back state government. You did a lot of good here. Let's keep it going by not allowing the Republicans to take credit for what you did. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Tom. Fossil fuels continue to have negative impacts on our environment. Luckily, there are more ways now than ever to use renewable energy in your home or business. All Energy Solar offers smart energy solutions like custom solar paneling, electric vehicle chargers, and energy storage. Solar panel systems can last for decades, meaning you can help the environment and cut back on electric bills for years to come. There are incentives and rebates available to most people who install solar energy, too. Last year, the federal solar tax credit increased to a 30% tax credit. This incentive can be used in combination with other incentives from your utility, county, or city. But don't delay or miss out, as many of these incentives are limited to only a certain number of people. So have a professional from All Energy Solar help you discover how solar can power up your property while saving on your energy costs. Call 800-620-3370 or visit allenergysolar.com.
One of the best things about living in Golden Valley is that it celebrates the LGBTQ community. Did you know that Golden Valley has more LGBTQ households per capita than any city in Minnesota? Did you also know that the Golden Valley Pride Festival was the first suburban pride festival in Minnesota? On Saturday, June 10th, come to Brookview Park in Golden Valley for the Golden Valley Pride Festival from noon to 6 p.m. and celebrate our 5th anniversary. The festival highlights our LGBTQ families, their friends, and allies in the spirit of promoting greater understanding of Golden Valley's rich and growing diversity. The event will feature 2 stages with live performances all day, food trucks and food vendors, a kids area with games, a beer, wine, and cider tent, as well as more than 70 community, business, and sponsor tents and exhibitors. There will also be kickball and volleyball games. There are still sponsorships available, and we're looking for volunteers. Go to goldenvalleypride.com for more information. That's goldenvalleypride.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 83, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 58, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high near 67. Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. They feature high-quality food and unique eating experiences for your next meal. Some of those restaurants and food purveyors include 30 Bales and Latunji's Palette. Find a full list of all of our restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Now, we'll get to the nurse staffing bill and the medical bill that went through here. And I want to start off by saying that, okay, fine. The Mayo Clinic scared the Democrats. And they said, we're going to take our $1 billion project out of the state. And they specifically referred to an upcoming $1 billion project they were going to build. They referred to a specific project that was going to be moved out of state if they didn't get their way. Okay? Now, I made the point of when they first initially said, well, we'll carve out an exception for the Mayo Clinic. I kind of laughed at that idea. It's like, oh, this is a half-ass idea, and half-ass ideas are half-ass ideas. And so you either drop the issue or you pass it for everyone. They ended up dropping the issue completely. But I'm going to make sure this is going to start a new segment on my show. Hey, Mayo Clinic, where's that $1 billion project you said you're going to pass? Because now you're on the hook for it. And I don't want to hear this. Well, what we're really talking about is overall operation. Bull crap. You said there's a $1 billion project on the line that you're going to take out of state unless you get your way. Well, you got your way. Where's the project? TikTok there, Mayo Clinic. Where is it? Because if you don't deliver on that, I'll be over in St. Paul myself, encouraging them to reintroduce this bill and jam it down your throats, because enough of this crap. If you truly have a massive investment that you think is going to be great, henceforth we should negotiate and not pass this bill, fine. But you now have stepped in it. And you, the Mayo Clinic, need to deliver. I don't like your tone. I don't like your tone. I don't like basically hospitals run like Fortune 500 corporations. I don't like union busting. I don't like people that mistreat their experts on staff. So we cave to your will, sirs, ma'ams. We cave to your wills. Where's this $1 billion project? I'll ask that again tomorrow. I will. I'm going to ask it every day until the Mayo Clinic comes forward with this plan. Because if they don't come forward with the plan, I think we just realized they were bluffing. The nurse staffing bill that had passed the House and the Senate just weeks ago was gutted in the final hours of the 2023 legislative session when some senators withdrew their support because of an exception for the Mayo Clinic. I don't blame them. Governor Walz pressured legislators to carve out the Mayo Clinic after the hospital threatened to move billions in future investment out of the state if the bill passed. So like I said, they were talking about future investments. They got $1 billion future investments. What are they? In last-minute negotiations, the bill's authors were forced to cut out the heart of the bill, a mandate that hospitals create staffing committees made up equally of direct care workers and hospital administrators with the power to set minimum nursing staff levels. During the legislative session, during which powerful corporate interests were consistently rebuffed by the DFL majorities on labor, tax, and regulatory issues, the state's hospitals came away with a victory in the final night. We came here to pass the Keeping Nurses at the Bedside Act because the power of influence of the Minnesota healthcare executives, that bill has died, said Mary Turner, the president of the Minnesota Nurses Association and an intensive care nurse, and she clearly was very emotionally upset about this. Now, and once again, I don't blame the senators last night who basically said, we can't just carve out a niche here for one hospital and then expect the rest of them to do it. Especially when the Mayo Clinic hasn't. Where's that $1 billion investment? Where is it? Well, because Matt McNeil said something, that meaty pants, we're going to move our stuff to Jacksonville. Is that what you're going to do? No. You got your way. You strong-armed the state government. You did it. So where's your $1 billion investment, Mayo Clinic? Not going to let that go. Will not let that go. The bill did pass with some bipartisan support in the Senate, 40-25, in the House, 112-17. I can almost name the 17 that voted against it. It really isn't that tough, is it? More on 1, more on 2, more on 3, more on 4, more on 5, more on 6, more on 7. Yeah, you can run the gamut. I think we all know who did. We didn't get everything that we wanted. We're not going to get everything that we need, but what we have is this provision is important, transformative work for nurses. And Senator Erin Murphy, a registered nurse and chief author of the bill. I know it was tough for her, but at the same time, this is don't act like this is some sort of big deal. You took out all the real teeth of the bill. So you got grandpa over there gumming his food now. So sorry for that image. Yikes. I like when the steak is tender. For months, union nurses said they'd already known what was causing a dire shortage of hospital nurses. The union points to surveys that show unsafe staffing levels are a main reason nurses cite for leaving the bedside. Now, I want to remind people, just a few months ago, I was in a hospital. Yeah, I know. Broken back, DWI. Not me. Someone else hit me. And thank you once again for the Toyota Sienna. The design of that sucker kept me alive. Plus, if I can as well, nurses, doctors, the assistant staff, the people that mop the floors, the people that bring your food, you're all angels. You're all absolute angels. And you deserve a heck of a lot more support than you've been getting. I see that there. I saw it there as well when I had my hip replaced a year plus ago. I saw it there when I had my kidney issue 2+ years ago. As a matter of fact, it's almost right around, oh my God, it's right like 2 years ago on the spot when I had that weird kidney thing happen. My kidneys nearly killed me. So yeah, and I saw it then. And I saw nurses that were out there working every day to make us safer and trying hard. And they were saying the same thing. It's that they've got a lot of patients and not a lot of staff. So no, I think they absolutely nailed it. That's the problem with our healthcare system. That's why nurses are not signing up, is because it's getting worse. And part of the deal is, can I just point this out? And I think that one nurse said this to me, and I'm not going to say where it was, but she said her feeling is they're purposely doing this to try to drive the union nurses out of nursing here in Minnesota so they can bring in non-union staff as emergency fill-ins. And that the eventual goal here is to take out the nurses union. That's what her thought was on this. I've rolled around that one a little bit as well. Union nurses say hospital leaders have understaffed units for years in an effort to cut costs, leaving nurses vulnerable to violence and burned out from being assigned more patients than they can safely care for. Hospital leaders have fiercely opposed the nurse staffing bill, saying there simply aren't enough nurses to hire. They're arguing staffing minimums would drive up costs by forcing them to hire expensive temporary nurses that would lead to many hospitals closing units. Hospital leaders also say they use software that allows them to assign direct care to staff according to patient needs, more effective than the rigid staffing ratios. Here's the point I'm going to make about the software, and I made this point the other day. Does your software factor in cost ratios? Not treating patients. Not, okay, we need to have 3 nurses for 12 patients. Not that. Does your software factor in, well, it's going to be most cost effective to do it this way? Because if that's the case, then what is the priority? Is the software actually concerned about the quality of care that the patient is receiving, or is it concerned about cut? Because there comes a point here after we've gone through the pandemic that we have to start realizing a lot of the problem here with the treatment of the people in the medical profession comes from the hospitals itself. And I think it's pretty clear at this point something needs to be done where you have some courage out there as opposed to people that are like, oh, the Mayo Clinic's bad? Well, I can't do that. So after the bill passed, the Minnesota Hospital Association released a statement saying, we deeply appreciate the legislators' thoughtful consideration and willingness to listen to our concerns. regarding legislation impacting patient care. Mayo Clinic did not respond for request for comment. Mayo, I'm hoping you're working on that blueprint for that $1 billion expansion project that you're going to work on. What is that? Where's the project, Mayo Clinic? Just anytime you want to deliver it, anytime. As a matter of fact, you want to come on my show? We can announce it here. It'd be great. I'll give you the floor. We can bring in charts. I got a camera right here. We'll bring in charts, show everyone what we're going to do down there. $1 billion. Wow, that sounds amazing. Anytime you want to. The Mayo Clinic issued an ultimatum in the final weeks of session after versions of the bill had already passed the House and Senate. In an email to DFL legislative leaders in Walz's office, we're going to talk to your manager. The Mayo Clinic executive said the nonprofit would reconsider its plans for new facilities and infrastructure that are 4 times the size of the investment of U.S. Bank Stadium, a $1.1 billion project. Now stop for a second. You think, wait a second, let me do the math here really quick. You think the U.S. Bank Stadium was built for $275 million? Thank God you're in medicine, because math is not your stronghold. Dear God, I guarantee you, when you factor in all the road construction, the free park we gave them, the upgrades to the sewer lines, the electrical lines, the internet lines, all that stuff, I guarantee you that's about a $2 billion project. But hey, no, you want to spend the money. You've now said, hey, you said if the bill passed as is, you're going to move that stuff out. Now it didn't. You got your way. So where's your plan, Mayo Clinic? Anytime you want to, where's your plan? The threat derailed a 15-year-long campaign nurses union to convince lawmakers to pass legislation for nurses staffing. 8 other states have similar mandated nursing requirements. Staffing committees, according to the American Nurses Association, tells you everything you need to know, because my guess is those other states, there's a higher standard being held to the hospitals, and they were desperate to not have that happen here in Minnesota. California and Massachusetts have more stringent government-mandated nurse-to-patient ratios. Mayo Clinic is opposed to a separate bill that would have created a healthcare affordability board with the power to set spending growth targets and find healthcare systems that exceeded them. That bill is also significantly watered down. Instead, the state will create a program to study the drivers of the healthcare costs more broadly. The nurse staffing bill's chief authors, Murphy and Representative Sandra Feist, the DFL from New Orleans Brighton, initially resisted pressures to exempt Mayo Clinic before relenting and pushing forward the bill. By the way, that board, there's no enforcement ability for that board, it doesn't sound like. In the intervening time, hospital systems across the state mounted a successful campaign to convince lawmakers that an exemption for one healthcare system was unacceptable, including Kelly Morrison, the DFLer from Deep Haven, who said, you don't do it half-ass. It's either for everyone or it's not for everyone. And you had your chance now. So, the bill's authors celebrated what was left of the bill and the fact that it would apply to all hospitals, including the Mayo Clinic. We are not leaving any nurses behind, said Liz Bolden, Rochester, who's a registered nurse. Well, yeah, you kind of are. I hate saying it, because you are, because you caved to Mayo. But hey, Mayo Clinic, anytime you want to announce that $1 billion expansion project, anytime, the show's all yours. I'll bring this up again tomorrow and the next day. And then we're off on that Friday and then Monday for Memorial Day. But then the Tuesday and next Wednesday and next Thursday and next Friday, I will bring it up every single day. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I want to tell you about a better, more environmentally friendly way to care for your lawn with Natural Lawn. Natural Lawn has been treating Minnesota lawns for more than 20 years with organic-based natural products that feed the soil without unnecessary chemicals. That means an envy-worthy, healthier lawn that's safer for your family and your furry friends. Natural Lawn has no contracts and is 100% satisfaction guaranteed. So let Natural Lawn handle your lawn care so you can enjoy your lawn. More at naturallawn.com.
Many car dealers will quote safety stats, but firsthand experience really tells the story. When I bought my 2017 Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota, the service manager told me it was one of their safest vehicles ever made. Then I saw it for myself. A car hit me at 35 miles per hour, and the Sienna saved me. Its design absorbed the collision, and although it took a wallop, I walked away and I now have a 2022 Sienna. When it comes to safety, I personally vouch for Toyotas. Be safe and get one today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Seward Co-op is now offering convenient self-serve and prepackaged hot options and salad bars at both the Franklin and Friendship stores. Breakfast items available daily until 11 a.m. and brunch served all day every Sunday. Their weekly lunch and dinner menus highlight cuisines from around the world. They offer vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free options daily. 95% of the ingredients used are organic from small-scale, local community food producers whenever possible. More at seward.coop.
Nightingale is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood restaurant in the Whittier neighborhood at 26th and Lindale. Nightingale has patio, dining room, and bar seating available. Plus, they still have takeout and delivery. Their menu has lots of delicious options like the famous Nightingale burger and fries, ginger tamari chicken wings, smoked chicken liver pate, and more. They're open from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. daily with their full menu until midnight. So make the friendly neighborhood Nightingale your go-to restaurant in South Minneapolis. Place an order, make a reservation, and more at nightingalempls.com.
So there's a lot of little things, by the way, that also got passed here. And one of the things I mentioned earlier during the laundry list of the 10-minute long laundry list of things that got passed by the DFL. And like I said, am I disappointed in what happened with the nurses? Absolutely. Absolutely. But overall, there was a lot of good that got done because let's face it, that compromise for the nurses would generally be the highlight of our session. With, it only cost us 16 tax cuts to have billionaires. But there was one thing that did happen here that kind of, a lot of people are going to talk for a long time about whether or not legalized dope in Minnesota is a direct result of the apparent running of fake third-party pro-dope candidates in districts that seem to have been propped up by the Republican Party. And so the Republicans basically kind of put this into motion. They think, fine, then we'll make it legal, which takes away. Now, I imagine they're out there trying to find Green Party candidates or create another mysterious party or something like that. Or maybe they'll just run an independent, but try to give them as much money as possible. But, they've taken away the pro-pot candidates. Another thing that is undeniable is because of Republican behavior that has happened. I don't know if the marijuana bill is, but this for sure. There are 3 paragraphs in the 300-page omnibus bill that drastically change the power dynamic between the governor and the state Senate. Now, if you don't remember, the state Senate approves the governor's commissioners. The commissioners are the people that run the individual departments, and these are people that you're getting generally from the private sector to come on in here and do a very tough job running things for the state, generally not paid enough and generally not getting a lot of yes, I think getting a lot more stress. How about I say it like that? Getting a lot more stress. But they do a great job. And these are people who are putting aside their own personal differences to come in and try to make the state better. In the history of this, I think what it was just since 1935, just 17 top appointees of Minnesota governors have been rejected by the Senate. But then came Walz's first term. And the Republicans basically under Gazelka and then under Jeremy Miller were basically holding his commissioners hostage because there was no deadline to get a commissioner approved. And so, and that led to Kurt Doubt basically putting out the tweet, looks like there's going to be some executions in the Senate. And not only, and by the way, so Kurt Doubt, you can thank yourself for this change in the law because you basically let the cat out of the bag with that little statement. But as well, it didn't do that good for the state because the governor made the point that he wasn't having special sessions. Walz says he was reluctant to return lawmakers to special session and needed legislation. He would fear they would remove his appointees. That was especially concerned about the Department of Public Health Commissioner Jan Malcolm. And as a matter of fact, there were multiple times where people in the state needed help, and the Republicans basically just said, well, we're not going to guarantee that we're not going to fire commissioners. And so basically he would not call. Asked last summer why he wouldn't call a special session to hold a vote on tax rebate checks. Walz said, because I want a health commissioner, because I'd like a public safety commissioner. Walz said, referring Malcolm and John Harrington. So the Republicans basically, they played this game. Now, if I understand the language completely, if the Senate waits until the end of session in which an appointments are made, the person is deemed automatically confirmed. So basically that, if the governor announces his commissioners, they have one session, which ran from January really till May, to either approve them or knock them down. And if they don't, they automatically become confirmed come the day they gavel the House and the Senate close. So there you go. You took care of that problem. See, Republicans, we like cleaning up your messes, and we cleaned up a lot of them. Hour 2, that's coming up next.
Hey, it's Patrick. So much of what makes us a family takes place in our home. These walls provide an intimate space for all of the small moments that bring us together, and that bond grows stronger year after year. And like any other relationship, your home requires the same love and attention. This is why you should trust in the power of Zero Res to take care of your home. At Zero Res, we don't use harsh soaps or chemicals. CR water is tough on stains and dirt while still safe for you and your family. So contact Zero Res today to clean your home, because a clean home is a healthy home. Just check out the 15,800 raving customer reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating. Visit ZeroResMinnesota.com to get 3 rooms of carpet Zero Resified starting at just $129, which is a savings of $40, and take $75 off an air duct cleaning. Make sure to mention you want the AM 950 special. Zero Res, backward or forward, spells the same.
The Tom Hartman Show. Now that's Smart Radio, AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says they aren't close to a deal with President Biden on raising the nation's debt limit. He says the solution is to cut spending.
We're at $32 trillion. We owe more money than our entire economy is. And there's no place. For 21 straight years, we have spent more than we brought in.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says there are reasons to be optimistic.
There is a good faith effort here. We just have to continue to do that. We have to keep doing that, and then we can get into a bipartisan, reasonable budget agreement.
Investors are not optimistic about the possibility of a default. Stocks are lower. The Dow finished down 231 points. A report from Illinois' Attorney General says Catholic clergy's sexual abuse of kids was far more common than the Catholic Church acknowledged. Investigators found more than 450 clergy sexually abused nearly 2,000 children since 1950, far more than the 103 the church had named. Kwame Raoul is Illinois' Attorney General.
These perpetrators may never be held accountable in a court of law, but by naming them in this report, the intention is to provide the public with public accountability, and a measure of healing to survivors who have long suffered in silence.
Raoul credited accusers for making the review possible. Police say a 2-year-old boy was shot in the head by a stray bullet while playing outside at a daycare center in Utah. No arrests have been made. The toddler is said to be in stable condition. Sources tell the AP Florida Governor Ron DeSantis plans to announce his 2024 presidential campaign in a Twitter Spaces event with Elon Musk tomorrow. Donald Trump threw up his hands in frustration as a judge scheduled his criminal trial for March 25th, putting the former president and current candidate in a Manhattan courtroom in the heat of next year's presidential primary season. This is AP News.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 40-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost you about $100 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-353-9057. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance to buy $1 million of affordable term life for you. All you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-353-9057. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-353-9057. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. For affordable term life insurance, call 800-353-9057. 800-353-9057.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk show airing every Saturday from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights you need to know to live and age well. Each week, we talk with guests who provide answers to important questions regarding healthcare, elder care, end-of-life care, and self-care for caregivers, and help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 on AM 950 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Hey, it's Patrick. There's a lot to celebrate this month. Graduations, the end of the school year approaching, barbecues, and the warm weather months ahead. Celebrate in a clean home by calling the cleaning pros at Zero Res. You know Zero Res is the zero residue carpet cleaners that don't leave behind any of the dirt-attracting soaps and chemicals that other carpet cleaners use. Their friendly carpet cleaning technicians always walk me through their entire carpet cleaning process and make sure I'm completely satisfied with my cleaning before they leave. Just check out the 15,800 raving customer reviews online with a 4.9 Google rating. Schedule today and get 3 rooms of carpet zero resified starting at just $129, which is a $40 savings and takes $75 off your air duct cleaning. Make sure to mention you want the AM 950 special. Book with ease at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES. Zero Res, backward or forward, spells the same.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 83. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 58. And Wednesday, partly sunny with a high near 67. Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. They feature high-quality food and unique eating experiences for your next meal. Some of those restaurants and food purveyors include 30 Bales and Latunji's Palette. Find a full list of all of our restaurants and food purveyors at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. If you're watching the show, by the way, I'm pointing at Brett right now. You can
wave that way. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You don't know where Trouble in River City comes from?
No.
It's a video game.
Yeah,
God, man, what the? There's trouble right here in River City, and that begins with the T and rhymes with P, and that's pool.
All right then. Yeah.
Pool tables apparently were a bad thing in River City in Iowa at one point with the Music Man. Didn't you ever watch the Music Man?
I don't think so. No.
Go watch the original with what was the guy's name who was the who played the Music Man in that, and a very young who was Shirley Partridge who played the Partridge Family, the mom on the Partridge Family.
That I don't know either.
She's fantastic. They were quite good in that. So no, very enjoyable. The music, you don't know the Music Man. All right, there are some things here in this bill, and by the way, just in case you're knowing, I'm Matt. That's Brett. Patrick's here as well. There are one or two things which give me a little concern in these bills that got passed. There's one in particular that I'm like, okay, I don't see how this ends well. And I think this is a major mistake. We're bringing something called the Idaho Stop to Minnesota. Do you know what this is?
The Idaho Stop. I'm curious what the context is of the Idaho Stop.
I'm going to presume it has something to do with your colon after too many potatoes, but it doesn't. No, apparently
That's
not.
where you go, yes.
I got an Idaho Stop. I need to get to the hospital right away. I need something besides potatoes. Minnesota became the latest state to legalize the Idaho Stop, which does not require bicyclists to come to a full halt at a stop sign, provided no other traffic is around. Provided that no other traffic is around.
Well, typically, yeah, cyclists are the best at obeying traffic laws. You're being very sarcastic with that, by the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for keying my car as you zip past between the two. Thank you for that. That was very nice of you.
And I know that from cycling myself. Yeah, we're not the best.
But you're not Johnny. You're not Quicksilver up on the side there.
In the Lance Armstrong suit and all that stuff. Yeah.
No, these are not. I'm talking about the bicyclists that look more like meth addicts on bikes. I'm not talking about the people. Those guys that are, they come through. I'm out in Hopkins, and on a Saturday or Sunday morning, all of a sudden they bike. All they're all going in a little formation. It's like, is this a work thing? Are they making you go bike riding for your work and your job?
Oh, that builds synergy and team building and all that.
Yeah, quit your job. Quit your job. You can bike by yourself, and you're not hey, we're going to do only 45 miles today, so everyone keep up. There's
45 miles.
just keep up.
Yeah.
There's also something I have talked about before. How many times I have driven past a bicyclist who's on the road, who I have the right to be here, and there is a perfectly good bike trail, not a sidewalk, a bike trail that's paved and nice. No, there's no potholes. There's no tree roots or anything. It's right there. It's taunting you at this point. Why are you on the road? Because I paid for this. We paid for this. And I was driving to a kids sporting event up in St. Michael, Albertville years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, soccer match. And if you take the back roads, there's one stretch there where there's a bike trail there. There wasn't another bike on there. This guy could have had his own private bike trail. Nope. He had it because, of course, on this road, the shoulder wasn't a shoulder. It was just gravel.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to be encroaching in on the lane and attitude the entire way.
No, and I think you're making the important distinction: sidewalks and bike trails. There's a difference. I would get why a bike doesn't go on a sidewalk. You don't
I
want to
completely get that.
Yeah, but a trail, yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, that's
says,
what we built it for.
It's got bikes painted on it. It's got bikes painted on it. It's not for that's not I guess it's a Pictionary game now. No, it's not for the walkers. It's for the bikes. There's also the problem that we have in this state. And this just happened. There's a crosswalk. There's a guy waiting there. Front tire on the street at a crosswalk, which I legally have to stop. It's one of those the yellow signs and flashing. You must stop. You have to stop in those. I stop. Hey, you go ahead. No. The point is that if you need to get across, that's where you go. You don't just sit there and mosey and just, like grandstands at a minor league baseball game. For God's if you want to stand there and watch the traffic go by, back up. Don't have your tire right there on the intersection. Don't do that.
Yeah, we do struggle with that, and the zipper merge too. Those are the two things: the zipper merge and the roundabouts. We struggle with this.
We should never put a zipper merge on a bike trail. We will have all-out brawls in the middle. A bunch of guys in spandex. Okay, Reginald, you beat him down now. It'll be like a really bad version of Guys and Dolls. Speaking of musicals, where you'll have one corporate bike team versus another corporate bike team because they couldn't do the zipper merge on bikes, as they avoided
that
the
is
bike
a
trail.
Nightmare combination you just made right there.
So here's the deal. Here's why I'm a little concerned. And by the way, I have no problem with bikes. I think bikes are fine. They're nice. They're a fantastic way to get around. And I live in Hopkins, which is like the epicenter of every freaking bike trail in the West Metro. I can go all the way up to Maple Grove. I can go down to the Mall of America. There's a bike trail to go to the Mall of America. You can go in any direction. I go out Lake Minnetonka. I've done that one a few times. I've gone all the way into Minneapolis. I've done that one a few times. You can do a bike trail anyway. I mean, it really is amazing. I like them. I like the trails. I like what we got set up. I think it's really cool. This I'm a little concerned about. The transportation bill passed this last weekend by the legislature includes new laws that change states bicyclists approaching a stop sign must now slow down enough where they're able to make the stop if there is traffic nearby, but may go through the intersection without stopping if there are no vehicles in the vicinity. I'm just concerned we're going to get people that are going to get killed. The rule, which allows bicyclists to treat stop signs as yield signs, legalizing a practice that many road cyclists already engage in.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, we're pretty much doing that anyways.
Was the first adopted by Idaho in 1982 and led to a subsequent drop in bicyclist injuries.
Oh,
okay. How many deaths? Is it that injuries have gone down, but it's no longer is it midway. It's either all the way or none. Is that what we got? The law change in Minnesota goes into effect on August 1st this year, which they're already doing it. I mean, no one's smoking dope right now in Minnesota. Yeah, all right, sure. Advocates say legalizing the practice helps bicyclists get ahead of traffic and increasing their visibility to other road users. God, nothing screams visibility to me than a guy pulling out the intersection as I'm going 45 down the highway going, oh my God, I see you. That's why I had to basically get up on the side wheels. Removing the need for cyclists to stop and start helps with their momentum, which supporters say helps with traffic flow. All right. So we're changing the law to help with bicyclist momentum.
Well, apparently it worked in Idaho, but we'll
How
see.
many people are in Idaho? They eat potatoes all the time. How many bicyclists are there? They're not hell. Evil Knievel didn't even make it over the Snake River Canyon out there. He crashed into the other side. I have no idea. I don't know why I'm bringing Evil Knievel in on this, or potatoes for that matter. They're delicious.
So maybe it's 3 people biked the entire year and none of them got hurt. So it's a
seen how
0%.
It's that state.
injury rate. Yeah.
The state's weird anyway. It's shaped more than the thing on the top and just connect Montana and Washington and be done with it. No, we're going to have this little strip.
I bet when I leave here, I'm going to look up Idaho bike trails and there'll just be a whole network of them we don't know about.
Yeah,
it's actually
where just make sure you write your name down before you're lost forever there. The bicycle operator who approaches a stop sign must slow to a speed that allows for stopping before entering the intersection with the nearest crosswalk. If there is not a vehicle in the vicinity, the operator may take a turn to proceed through the intersection without stopping. That's the words. What did every bicyclist hear? Go through it, man! That's what they got. Yeah, so no stopping. Unlike some other states who've also adopted the Idaho stop for light-controlled intersections, Minnesota has not changed the laws for bicyclists approaching a red light. They still have to stop for the red light.
Can't do the rolling stop at the red light.
They're not going to stop for the red light. They're going to be up on their tires like, okay, there's 20 feet between those cars going 60 miles an hour. I'll make it. I don't think this is a good idea. Now, they have apparently numbers that say this is going to be better. Things are going to be better. I mean, I learned my lesson with roundabouts. Those things, not a big fan of the roundabout, but they do indeed cut traffic accidents dramatically, which was hard because my wife almost immediately got into an accident in her first one. So it was.
That's a good welcome to it. Yeah.
It's like, apparently they don't work like other intersections. I was wrong on that. So, I mean, I don't have any problem admitting I'm wrong, but I'm concerned like US 10 up on US 10 and, Highway 7 by Knollwood Mall and 61 and pick your highway, man. I mean, go up in the northeast side of town there. I mean, they don't slow down for anything up there. US 8 going from 35 heading over towards the border. I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I hope the data's right on this, but we'll see. I'm with you that I'd be a little skeptical on this, but apparently if they have information that says it's going to be safer, give it a try, but hopefully change it if it's not.
Maybe I have a problem with it because it's called the Idaho stop.
That too, yeah. No, but logically it makes sense. I mean, that doesn't really seem like it would necessarily reduce accidents, but maybe it did. I don't know.
All 20 people that live in Idaho thought it was great. So it's easy to miss people when you're outnumbered by buzzards by how much. I mean, oh, Idaho, you deserve it. You do. Yeah, I've seen what you guys are passing out there. How many militias you guys got in government? Stop it. Anywho, we have, as opposed to Idaho, where it's the seventh circle of hell, we have a magnificent heaven here in Minnesota that you and Cooligan talking about the end of session, correct?
Oh, I love the transition right there to Patrick Cooligan. He did a great interview today, by the way, as we were talking about the end of session and his thoughts basically on why this was such a significant session for the DFL, and also comparing it to the last time we had a trifecta back in 2013 and 2014, and how this legislature was able to accomplish quite a bit more than that last one we had back in 13-14, when we had a much different kind of DFL party back then.
Democratic parties in some states with a supermajority don't get half of what we got done,
and that's
with one vote.
That's what we talked about too. California, Vermont, New York, all of these progressive states sometimes struggle to actually get progressive policies put in place.
So, absolutely outstanding. Patrick Cooligan from the Minnesota Reformer, he gives us his take on the end of session with Brett right here on AM 950.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brett Johnson with you here on a Tuesday afternoon. And of course, now with the state legislature wrapping up their work and adjourning their session, we're going to bring on Patrick Cooligan, who is the editor-in-chief of the Minnesota Reformer, to talk about what was passed at the legislature and the overall meaning of what happened, because lots of folks are saying this is one of the most significant legislative sessions we have had in quite some time. So happy to bring back on Patrick Cooligan of the Minnesota Reformer. Thanks for coming on again today.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So lots of things were passed this year by the DFL with their trifecta at the legislature. And of course, also having Governor Tim Walz, as among other things, we will have more money for schools, legalized recreational marijuana, the right to abortion further protected in the state, also an expanded child tax credit, paid sick time, and a lot more, as this was a very consequential session for the DFL. So when we add this all up, how would you rate the significance of this year's sessions? Are comparisons we've been hearing to things like the New Deal or the Minnesota Miracle back in the 1970s kind of accurate in your mind with what happened during this session?
Yeah, people are making those analogies, and I think they're accurate if you consider all the ways in which this legislature, with Governor Tim Walz, have transformed the state across a whole range of sectors, from education to housing, transportation, civil liberties. You just go down this long list of achievements, and I don't think we've seen this certainly in my time here. But also, I think that 1973 comparison is one that I'm hearing people make. The more seasoned folks at the Capitol, and I think if you look in the history books, I think the FDR analogy is a good one too.
Absolutely. And I think context is important when pointing this out too, because the DFL went into this with only a 1-seat Senate majority. Meanwhile, in the House, they only had a single-digit majority. So I think that's something that we shouldn't discount, how difficult that probably was to get some of these things passed with those very narrow majorities. Can we talk a little bit more about why they were able to do this? I guess where I'm going, were there any Joe Manchins in the Minnesota legislature? What were they able to do to try to keep their entire caucus united around many of these bills, despite having their very slim majorities?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to say about that. And you're right that everybody expected that there'd be a lot more dissension and it'd be a lot messier. And with that 1-seat majority, and I certainly thought that this would give an opening for the kind of usual moneyed interests to be able to have influence on some big issues. But there's a couple of reasons why I think that didn't happen. One is there was really a powerful grassroots organization that was kind of in place and ready to go. Groups like Isaiah, the labor unions, and then all kinds of issue groups around the environment and housing. And they've been working at this for years, playing defense mostly in the past when we had a divided legislature. But this time, they were ready to go and to keep the pressure on the legislators and not let them take their foot off the gas. So Isaiah, for instance, which is a progressive ecumenical group, they tell me that they had 5,000 people at the Capitol at one time or another this session. And I think the fact that the legislators were in person this year as opposed to the pandemic years, I think made a difference. And so that's just one group. So you had that really powerful grassroots organizing to keep the pressure on. And then you just have a very different Democratic Party, DFL party, than, say, the last time they had the trifecta in 2013, 2014. We had a lot of rural members, socially very moderate. You had a guy like Tom Bach, who eventually became a Republican, or was caucusing with a Republican. He was running the Senate DFL caucus, and just a totally different set of priorities. The party now is just much more urban, suburban, diverse, young, and it's just more ideological. And I don't think there's any denying that there's a recent history here where the Democratic Party has united around a set of principles that maybe wasn't there as recently as 10 or 20 years ago, when it was kind of a collection of interest groups and a lot of kind of legacy Democrats, we'll call them. And now it's just a much more ideological and principled, I guess you might say, party, and that's reflected in the members.
I want to go back to something you were talking about as well, the fact that they were largely able to stick together on so many of these bills. And it's interesting when you compare that to other Democratic trifectas we see around the country. I know specifically in your column, again, over at MinnesotaReformer.com, you talked about how Democrats have typically run into all sorts of trouble in New York, for instance, despite the fact that they control the governor's mansion and both chambers of the legislature. We've certainly seen this in California at times where they haven't maybe passed as progressive bills as Democrats would like, or even Vermont, where I know they were trying to get into single-payer health care a few years ago. So is this kind of that organizing effort that was able to lead to this more ideologically kind of coherent base, or was it more naturally kind of a thing that was happening with that DFL party becoming more and more urban and having less of those more moderate rural members that used to be in the party, for instance, like on the Iron Range?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a sense in which that you have to seize this moment, and that's where it's maybe helpful to be out of power for a few years, and then you realize, well, you know, when we get back in there, if we ever have a chance to, like, we're gonna actually do what we think ought to be done, rather than, you know, in some of these trifecta states where it's just a lot of well, how do I keep my piece of the pie here? And it might be kind of Democratic aligned interest groups stabbing their friends in the back if they feel like they need to keep their piece of the machine. So I think there's still a lot more to understand about why things would be so different here than some of these other places, especially since the majorities here were so narrow. And it's also possible that those narrow majorities were in some ways persuasive to members because you get the group dynamics where, you know, who wants to be the one who's going to take down, you know, any of these programs or policies. You know, do you really want to be the one person identified with, you know, with the fossil fuel industry, say, or not investing in our transportation system, or with gun industry? Because if you're the one who's going to vote no, you're putting a big stamp on your forehead, and so that may have been part of this too. But yeah, I mean, that's just a good question. We're going to have to. Historians will know more.
And I guess kind of a two-part question here as we wrap things up in the next few minutes. But as we talked about, the DFL passed a number of priorities like more money for schools, legal marijuana, further rights to abortion codified into law, the child tax credit, paid sick time, and more. So lots of things were accomplished by the DFL. Does anything, I guess, part one, particularly surprise you that they were able to get passed, or maybe the word around the Capitol that was a surprise they were able to get passed that people were thinking maybe they didn't have a chance? And then as we look ahead to the session next year, are there still any priorities the DFL may try to work on in 2024?
Yeah, I was surprised that given the surplus and given the shrewd political instincts of the speaker, Melissa Hortman, and the majority leader, Carrie Dietzich, and the narrow majorities, that they would actually raise taxes, specifically for housing in the metro and for transportation. They index the gas tax, so that's going to go up with inflation, and they raise the sales tax for transit. That was gutsy, and I'm surprised that they held together on that. The Republicans, certainly licking their chops for the next election, and they're going to use those votes against Democrats. So, given the surplus, I was a little surprised that they raised taxes, but they think that's needed. And so, and again, 2013, 2014, they had a shot at the gas tax and they didn't raise it. And the next decade was spent bemoaning the lack of transportation money. So I think they decided they weren't going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking ahead to 2024, during that session, I know obviously it won't be quite as big as the 2020 session, since typically that's what happens in even years. But are there any priorities the DFL and other members of the legislature are talking about that they might want to work on? I know obviously for the nurses union, the new nursing bill was a little bit of a disappointment. So is there anything they could be looking at in 2024 that might be on their agenda?
I'm actually set to go talk to the speaker at 3:30 today, so I'm eager to hear what she has to say about that. I tend to think personally that it's going to be a lot of cleanup. You can't pass this much legislation and not require some fixes. In fact, I talked to a lobbyist who was there at the 1973 session. He says, "I remember that session well, and I remember the rest of the 70s. We were kind of cleaning up various mistakes that had been made." And so I think everybody needs to be ready for that. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. If you want to achieve big things, there's going to be hiccups. And I think we see that with Obamacare, for instance, kind of a messy rollout. And then, they're still making fixes all the way into last year. And so that's what I see a lot of happening next session. They also have, it's going to be a relatively short session. The second year is always a shorter session, but they actually had more legislative days this year than normal. I understand, I believe so. So I think it's going to be pretty short, but also an election year. So, you don't necessarily want to be taking tough votes in an election year. So that's next year.
Yeah, it's something we'll have to chat about next week. Yeah, when you get a chance to speak with the speaker, talking about what their priorities might be coming up in 24, and maybe some of that maintenance you were kind of talking about that we saw back in the 70s after the Minnesota miracle. Well, make sure you check out Patrick Coolican's column in the Minnesota Reformer, wrapping up the legislative session and talking about how the DFL went big. Again, find that over at minnesotareformer.com. We have been speaking with Patrick Coolican of the Minnesota Reformer. As always, thanks for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
All right, let's take a break and send things back over to Matt McNeil on AM 950.
Since when are houses disposable?
I know. About half of what's in landfills are building materials that could be reused or recycled.
For the sake of the environment, this has got to stop.
There is money available to help Hennepin County residents and their contractors do the right thing. Reuse and recycle the building materials. You could earn $400 per ton for materials saved on a partial deconstruction of your next remodeling project, and up to $9,000 for a full deconstruction in Hennepin County.
Fixtures and cabinets?
All the way down to stair treads and 2x4s.
Flooring?
We floor you all day long, sister. Materials are sold at Better Futures Reuse Warehouse at 2620 Minnehaha Avenue in Minneapolis.
Don't demolish, deconstruct. Do the right thing, get money back. You nailed it, brother.
That's D-nailed it. Wouldn't want to poke an eye out.
Check out betterfuturesminnesota.com. That's betterfuturesminnesota.com. And don't forget to shop the Reuse Warehouse.
Hey, John, I heard you're turning 65 this year. Time to start comparing your Medicare insurance options.
Oh, I am so overwhelmed with all the different Medicare companies and plan designs. I don't even know where to begin.
Really? I worked with compareyourmedicare.com, and they made my Medicare decisions seem easy.
Huh, really? Well, what do they do?
Compareyourmedicare.com represents several of the top Medicare insurance companies in Minnesota. A local licensed agent will help you compare Medicare plans to determine which products best meet your needs and budget.
Wow, that sounds a lot easier than going to a bunch of different Medicare seminars on my own.
Way easier. Just go to compareyourmedicare.com and request a free, no-obligation review. You can even schedule a virtual consultation from the comfort of your own home.
Hi, this is Jared with compareyourmedicare.com. We pride ourselves in serving our community's Medicare needs. Whether you're planning to retire early or work past age 65, we can guide you through how and when to apply for Medicare. Go to compareyourmedicare.com to schedule a consultation.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since 94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Hi, I'm Scott Shambot from Shambot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. And we'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy tonight with a low of 59, then remains cloudy through Wednesday with a high of 71. Cloudy again Wednesday night with a low of 50. Celebrate the arrival of summer with a great meal at an Eat Local Minnesota restaurant, perfect for any occasion. Check out the list of Eat Local Minnesota restaurants at eatlocalminnesota.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Brett. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. You want to chime in on the final day, the session finally wrapping up, you're more than welcome to. I want to take a portion of this last remaining half hour of the show and try to console the Republicans a little bit. I'm dead serious. I'm going to give you some honest advice and explain why you guys are in big trouble. Now, it's not something you can't fix. And, earlier in the show, I was talking about how some of the Republicans, people that are not necessarily the loon balls who are out there going, Democrats are horrible. I get it. You're frustrated. It was a pretty monumental session. And frankly, the smart money was against the Democrats pulling this off because they would be, they generally have a tendency of imploding. But they basically got on board and they had their agenda and they got it done. And when they came across a problem within their own caucus, they went out there and talked to the individual. And there were some things that did not get passed. I know the cheaper prescription drug I don't think was included in any of the final bills because, there was John Hoffman, the senator, there basically added in a caveat that basically made it impossible for pretty much any drug to be bought cheaply. And so I think that as opposed to try to jam that through, they basically pulled it. That's what at least it looks like. I'm trying to keep track of all this stuff is not easy. I want to bring up Carrie Lake here. Now, this is not Minnesota. This is down in Arizona. Carrie Lake, of course, is the loser who lost the governor's race down there. And I made the point that she said a few things that really were what killed her campaign. She was going to win, I think. And then she basically went out there and started, saying stupid things. And, she ended up getting in trouble. Well, she's still at it. If you missed it earlier this week, she had yet another court throw out the argument that, all these ballots were fraudulent. And apparently, I guess she thinks that you should have every county in the state of Arizona needs to hire 20 to 30 signature specialists and have a database of signatures on file So for every time a mail-in ballot comes in, there's a 4-hour long, breakdown of each signature to determine whether or not that's the real signature. I guess that's kind of the impression I got. The judge said no. There is, that there is no time requirement to review the signatures, and if the signatures look pretty close, that's good enough. Her argument is, and I want to make sure we understand this. Her argument for her case to still be successful is that somehow, some way, a massive coordinated effort got everyone's signature, got close to copying it to where it looked like the other person, but they were all fraudulent, and only having that, FBI signature analysis people there, that would have been the only thing. So she's loony. She is a loon ball. She's not stopping, though. I'm going to read this for you, Carrie Lake. The courts have just ruled that anything goes. We can play by those same rules. If anything goes, then anything goes. If the left plays that way, maybe we should start playing that way. We're going to inundate them with so many mail-in ballots, their heads are going to spin. Now, if you're, well, first of all, clearly there is an implied threat there. There really is. Now, that being said, are you telling people to vote fraudulently because they're going to go to jail? They are going to get into trouble. They are going to that is going to be the problem. They are going to get into trouble if you tell them to illegally vote. But you see, Carrie Lake isn't really a politician. She's something that's permeated the Republican Party to a point where it can actually dissolve the Republican Party if it doesn't get addressed soon. And that is, she's just a troll. Now, I'll get back to that in a second. I want to give Steve in Minneapolis a chance to chime in. Welcome on in, Steve.
Hi. First, I have two topics. First of all, the bike thing. Where I live, 35th and 36th Avenue South are the main thoroughfares, even though they're absolutely freaking horrible. And I don't know why you'd want to ride a bike on that. It'll beat the crap out of you. But people do it anyway.
Yes, they do.
And then they blow the red light, and then you get behind them again. You can go 4 blocks south, and you own 40th. It's strictly bike. Anyway, so enough of that. I just got home from New York like half an hour ago. And what I saw was, I was right off Times Square. Every other or every third block, there's 1 or 2 cops just standing around keeping an eye on things. Why can't we have that?
I don't know. I will say this: your population density in New York is far higher than ours. And thanks, Steve. I appreciate the phone call. So, if you've got a guy in every block, you got to remember on that block lives probably 20 to 30,000 people. And so that, to a point, that's the deal, I think. But, I think we'll have to look at that. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying, Carrie Lake is a troll. She is an internet troll. And I want to make sure we understand, what is an internet troll? The internet troll is someone, as I have described, and I cannot come up, I've never been able to come up with a better definition of what an internet troll is. An internet troll comes to your social media page, kicks open the door, goes to the bathroom in the middle of your floor, looks at it with a smile on their face, points and says, "You have to like it." And that is an internet troll. They are not there for, they will always, when you block them, insist, well, you're just against just common decency and debate. That's all you're against, Matt. You don't want to debate anyone. No, you don't want to debate anyone. You just basically want to slam people and insult them. That's all you do. That's all you do. You think that's debate. That's not Lincoln Douglas. That's basically a deranged psychopath. And this is the problem. And this is what's happened, is that that because of the internet, not only do smart people look really stupid, but you take the people that you used to walk down the street and say, "Sweet Jesus, I'm not going to get anywhere near this guy." And you give them the ability to present themselves as something normal. And that is the problem. That's why I have no problem blocking people, because you offer nothing to my life. You offer nothing to my life. I can tell that within 2 or 3 typed words. That's on you, man. And like I said, you're coming to my page. I'm not going to your page. You're coming to my page. Bye. It's my sanity and my follower sanity is going to be better without you in it. Roberta is in Eden Prairie. She wanted to chime in on Carrie Lake. Welcome on in, Roberta.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to give my little opinion. I think Carrie Lake there'll be something coming after this one that she lost. She's trying to keep her name out there and keep getting publicity for how in league she is with, Trump's ideas. And so that when he's looking to pick a vice presidential pick, she's hoping her name will be in the pot.
That's actually a very good point there, Roberta. Thank you. I think you might be onto something there. That might, kind of be the belligerent side, but I don't think Trump wants her as the VP pick. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I didn't think he had a chance, but Carrie Lake, one of the reasons why she does this is because she believes her own press, and then she believes the press of the kind of pathetic followers that basically only follow her because that she feels as if she's owning the libs. Now, Republicans, I want to make sure you understand something. Here's where your problem has come in. Last year, when you guys lost Roe v. Wade as an issue that you guys used to say, oh, we got to stop this. When you basically took away people's rights and you forced people to pay attention, you started getting your asses handed to you. That's just what happened. Okay? That's just what happened. You sit there and have been trying to figure out some way to go with this. And the problem is it's a twofold problem that you've got right now. On one side, you guys haven't had to deliver policy where you go on out there and convince the people, let me tell you about what's going to be in my transportation bill. Sure, you might go out there and talk about a few things for your district, but you generally don't know how to sell it outside of, 1 or 2 things. That's just who you are. You haven't had to health and human services, environment, energy. You haven't had to do an actual policy where you go present this. One of the things that's remarkable about the DFL and what they just did is they kept introducing policy after policy. It was up online. Anyone could read it. They had hearings. They allowed the Republicans to come in there and start screaming about, we need to stop this. We're not going to stop this. You're disrespecting me. That's kind of how things went. But the DFL had success because they presented their policies. They actually campaigned on a lot what they were going to do last year, and they presented their policies and they got them done. Easy, simple. You guys haven't had to do policy in decades. Reminder, I want to give you a reminder of this, how bad they are at policy. Back in 2010, when they won and they pulled the big upset after the Affordable Care Act, the first thing, what was the thing they kept saying? Well, we're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We're going to repeal Obamacare, and we're going to put our brand new health care plan into place. All right. What's your health care plan? We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that next week. We'll get to that next month. We'll get to that eventually. They never once, you remember how many times did Republicans promise us they had their health care plan that was ready to go? Boom. Never once did it, because the idea of sitting down and actually writing a policy is so the antithesis of a Republican today. They don't write policy. They get a call from some guy in Vegas or some guy in Atlanta or some guy in Texas, some guy in Florida, and says, here's the bill you're going to pass. Just erase all the stuff that says Florida or Texas on there and put Minnesota in there and just figure out what laws you need to kind of change it up for. But that's the bill. There's rarely a case where it's anything local. And when they did, remember when Jensen actually did go on out there and try to get the insulin bill passed? The party turned on him and made him actually vote down his own bill. You guys can't stand policy. That's a huge problem for you, because we are entering into the freaking age of policy. And a big warning sign for you was when we put on the ballot a few years ago about the legacy money, where basically we were going to take money and give it to the arts and stuff. And you were like, well, no one's going to pass this. And it passed easily. It passed with, I think it was like a 64% of the vote was for it. You guys don't realize you are basically trying to talk to a population that is wanting to understand complex policy, and you guys are trying to just grunt your way through it, and that's not going to work. Here's your other problem. You got too many trolls. Now, I've talked about way too many times about the fact that you guys have created gerrymandered districts and districts where the turnip could run with an R next to its name and it would win. One of the things we have learned is that in a Republican-safe district, moderate Republicans rarely can hold those seats because the Republican Party today wants that crazy deranged guy coming down the street screaming at the top of their lungs. That's what they want. They want to own the libs. They want to punish their perceived enemies. They want someone else to blame for all their mistakes in their lives. And normal people don't try to do that. They try to win on, kind of merit. You guys have got, ZZ Flop, you've got Drazkowski, you've got the human catchers, Mint and Gruenhagen. You got these people who are basically, for lack of a better way to say it, trolls. Your biggest troll is Walter Hudson. Dude, that guy is desperately trying to get my attention on Twitter. He's a Twitter troll, for God's sakes. And he's a sitting House rep. Someone needs to pull these guys aside and say, if you want to be a Twitter troll, resign your seat and then off you go. Go out and hate as much as you want. But if you want to be an actual House rep, treat the job with some level of respect. And the reality is that's just not who you people are anymore. You bow down to the worst of us. You don't have policy, and you basically are just looking for people who are so angry at life, partially because of Republican policies that have created this anger. And the only thing that matters to you is basically screaming at the top of your lungs. That is who you are now. You have at least 6 Republicans who over the last few months have gotten into Twitter spats with me. Come on, what are you doing? You got Walter Hudson, who basically is trying to get me, I guess, to take him to prom or something like that. Dear Lord, man, I've muted you because you don't make any sense. At the same time, I haven't blocked you because I don't quite know how I feel about. It's one thing to block War Eagle Freedom Info fan that's got an eagle and an American flag icon. It's another thing to block actual reps and senators. I can't do that, so I've muted you. I don't have any idea what you're saying to me. I don't know what you're putting out there. All I do know is every once in a while I get responses from someone who's like, "Yeah, get him." And like I said, you're a Twitter troll, and you got your little group of Twitter trolls that come out. What are you doing, man? Do you think the people of St. Michael Albertville are getting any kind of decent, legitimate representation when it seems like your biggest priority is to be a Twitter troll? Republicans, this is your problem, and it's a legit problem because you don't know how to write policy. And the people that get the fawning and the accolades from the tried and true Republican voters are people who are human internet trolls. And I just don't know how in the world you're going to solve this because, frankly, like I said, and I said this earlier, you're going to have Trump at the top of your ticket. You're going to have Amy Klobuchar running for Senate here. Their whole goal right now in this next election cycle is going to be, your life is horrible, and gotta hope and pray that these policies that got passed actually don't make a lot of people's lives better, which they likely will. You gotta hope and pray that doesn't happen. And then on top of it, what are you going to say when someone says, well, I like legalized dope in Minnesota? Are you going to come out there and say, no, we're going to make it illegal? You see how horrible it worked for you guys on abortion. Where after the Roe v. Wade thing, you kind of came out like, where did you ever get the idea that the people that were 3 months ago talking about outlawing it in the state want to outlaw it in the state? You guys are all on the record now. I don't know how you solve this problem if you're a Republican. I have no idea. But what I can say is that as long as you don't have policies And your whole thing is trying to grunt your way through an election cycle. And as long as the vast majority, or not the vast majority, but there are members of the House and the Senate on the Republican side whose main goal seems to be an internet troll, I don't know how in the heck you break away from this. All I will say is keep it up, guys. You're doing a great job. You see what we just did? You know what? Who made that responsible? You did. You guys were so bad at leadership and candidates. You guys did this. Sure, I'm sure you'll find better candidates next time. Well, good luck with all that. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
I love my Toyota vehicles, so when I have to get service done, there's only one place I go. Rudy Luther Toyota. They know Toyotas inside and out. It starts with them checking your alignment and tire treads with the Hunter Quick Check Drive Inspection Service. Oil changes, tires, batteries, wipers, no matter what you need done, they can help you with reliable Toyota parts and the best service team in Minnesota. Check their website, rudyluthertoyota.com, for service and parts specials just for your Toyota vehicles. Get your Toyota serviced at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
In retirement, it's all about income, your money making money, while still controlling your principal. If your portfolio has recently taken a big hit, you're not set up for retirement income. We're Ferguson Financial, and that's what we do. We position portfolios to generate retirement income. Learn how it's done. Call us today, 888-429-5569, and check out our retirement income program, Sunday mornings at 9.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know what you do with this clown car brigade you got going on in the Republican Party of Minnesota right now. Drazkowski? God, you remember what Drazkowski said this session? I mean, you should have those ads ready to go, DFL. Lucero? You know, it's you got guys who are more, and they can't lose those seats. I mean, okay, if I was to honestly say, how do you win back the Republican Party? You primary every one of these guys with an actual Republican who doesn't have to be a moderate, but has to understand you can't win statewide races if all you're doing is pandering to the most extreme far right. That would be my suggestion, that the party itself goes into some of these districts and says, you know what, we are not, and that's your entire argument. We cannot win statewide races if all we're doing is basically, screaming policy like an internet troll. You might be able to pick up a few of those seats, but at the same time, you're not going to pick them up, all of them. You've created a real mess for yourself. And where some of these guys don't get too, loud, we don't hear too much from some of the guys out in the northwestern part of the state or some of the southern border of the state. You got enough other guys out there that are making as much noise as they possibly freaking can. And you have to understand that whenever they're out there talking about, and I'll just, we're going to force abortion restrictions on everyone, we'll undo everything they're going to do. Well, that's not helping. And granted, that sells to your local audience. That sells to the corn feast that you're having as a fundraiser, but it sure doesn't sell in the suburbs. We're going to persecute and throw parents of transgender kids into jail. I don't know how you think you're going to win with that. So it's going to be basically like, you've been taxed so much. Now ignore all the good things the Democrats gave you with the tax money, but you've been taxed so much. That's going to be it. And I don't know if that's a winning message. One last thing, too, and we have to understand why the DFL did so well here. If Schultz would have won the Attorney General's race, if Ellison would have lost, this morning there would be a litany of lawsuits filed by our own state Attorney General to try to overturn the legislation that was just passed. That would be their game. That they find, okay, you pass these bills, but I'm going to file as many lawsuits as I can to kind of keep any of this stuff from happening. And maybe, just maybe, I can hold it up and long enough to where the Republicans get in there and they prevent something like this from ever going into law. That did not happen because the Democrats won across the board in every race. These laws are going to be on the books, and these laws are going to stand. So I don't know what you Republicans do, because you have to get rid of the trolls and you have to start creating policy again. And those are two things you guys, I just don't think are going to do. Native Roots Radio comes up in the 6. We're back tomorrow. Have a good one. Till then, see ya.
This is Ross Stadheim, partner at MJSB Employment Justice. At our firm, we specialize in cases where our clients tried to do the right thing by reporting illegal or unethical conduct